Thank you so much for having us here in your home today.
Not a problem.
And what a lovely home it is. It's my first time visiting this group of apartments. Now, tell me a little bit about your past here in Queenstown. We've noticed that the housing situation over time seems to have changed quite dramatically, particularly the last sort of 10, 20 years. What have you observed?
Yeah, well, I came here 25 years ago, and strange, we were living in a caravan then, and then we got a place to rent. But even back then, it was very hard to get something to rent that you could afford. I was fortunate. I got a place up in Queenstown Industrial, but the rent kept on going up and up and up. And then my daughter, who was living just over the back here, suggested I went and live with them, which I did, and that was great. Except they decided they'd had enough of Queenstown. Oh, that's right, that's what happened. The landlord came along and said he was putting the rent up $200 a week.
That was on your daughter's place?
My daughter's place. They were renting a place. And she said, oh, okay, we're off. So they moved to Cromwell, and now they're on the West Coast. Then I went from there. Where did I go to from there? I think I went to my daughter's place. I've got another daughter living at Lakeside Estates. And as funny as this sounds, people throw their hands up. I was living in a tent in their garage. Now, that was actually, yeah, pretty way out there, but it was also private for me, so I had my own space. And then where did I go? Then a friend bought a little caravan for me to live in, and it was a very small caravan. And that was at a friend's place, and then out at the Arrowtown Motor Camp. And then I worked my backside off to be able to afford to buy a caravan of my own. And then I lived in that for 6 years, all the time being on the books of the Affordable Housing Trust. But at one stage, a place came up, but I was still earning a bit too much to go into it. And then I've had a few problems because of a car accident I had, and then this was being built. So Karina, who I've got to know Karina and Julie really well. She came to me and she, come and have a look at one. So I did. And the consequence of that was I ended up living in those.
Amazing. And was that, when they said come and have a look, was that even before it was built? Were you looking at plans?
No, that was after it was built.
Okay, yep.
But before there was people living in here.
Yep.
It was the weirdest feeling walking into this building with all these apartments. But, for me, having things like an inside toilet and a proper kitchen, and as funny as this might sound, that fridge is the first brand new fridge I ever have had. We bought the fridge. You buy the fridges for yourself. Everything else is provided. And, that was something for me. And that was only 3 years ago. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
just these little things.
But collectively, they're massive, aren't they?
Yeah, and I've got a wonderful kitchen. Look at it.
Yeah, yeah. And are you happy here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close to everything. I don't have to fight with the traffic to get to St John when we drive the shuttle down to Invercargill. You've got doctors, dentists, chemists, supermarkets, Spotlight, most important. I sew.
So tell me about some of the work that you do in the community, because you've received awards for your service to others.
Oh, yeah, I've done. I believe that any community you live in, you should volunteer. Okay, if you're part of the community, and you can do it. I was working right up until the start of COVID. I was a tour guide. Technically, I still am. But in between that, I still did volunteer work. I volunteered for St John. I do the shuttle. I've done some historic stuff in Queenstown, and there was myself and two others who were the initiators of the Wilding Pine projects in Queenstown.
Ah, okay, yep.
Which have now become so political, and those of us that started have just sort of faded back, which is fine. I don't want to be involved in it now. And I'm also involved with senior citizens. I drive their van for them when it's needed. I just help people wherever there's a couple of old couples I help.
And are those shuttle services helping people get to appointments, like medical appointments and such?
In Invercargill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because that's the nearest tertiary hospital, is
Yep.
it? Understood.
Yep.
What are you seeing and hearing in your community around housing stress? Is it a growing issue from your perspective?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I had a friend of mine who was living, this is going back about 8 years now, but he was living, I won't say where he was living in his car, but he was living in his car. He had two extremely bad hips. He couldn't afford to find anywhere to live. And this is it. I mean, if it wasn't for the Housing Trust and the fact that this is classed as a social house, which is, that's a very unfortunate term in New Zealand. I don't know where I'd be.
Yep. That's the reality.
That's the reality of it. And there's a lot of people like that too. And, you know, starting at what, 500, 550 for one bedroom unit, you just can't afford it.
Yeah.
And you're looking at something like, there was one advertised today, 750 for a 2-bedroom small unit. And I mean, I know it's not just Queenstown, but it seems to be, I don't know, because there's a very old population in Queenstown. The older like everywhere, you know, we're one of the troubled children. We're the what do they call us? And baby boomers. That's right. But I mean, I've heard so many times over the last few months, because I know a lot of people, tourism, St. John, just being involved in the community, people whose families have had to move away.
Right, because of the cost of living.
They cannot afford to pay $800 for a house when only one parent's working and they've got children. And I mean, this is the big problem here. How do you keep workers here too?
And you've experienced this obviously within your own family.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So there's a bit of, there seems to be a theme here of quite continuous churn of people who are coming in and then being forced out by the cost of their housing.
And people who've been here 30 years are leaving because they cannot afford to stay here. My daughter, who lives at Lake Hayes Estate, well, it was a young family, it's not now. She was in one of the first affordable housing trusts buying the houses to buy. Yeah. So, yeah.
So talk me through your personal experience of meeting the Housing Trust and how you ended up in this home. How did that work for you?
I don't even know how I met them.
Well, that's good. In a way, isn't it? Because they were in your community somewhere and you bumped into them.
I did fill in the paperwork.
Okay.
About 6 years ago.
Yep.
And so they were in touch with me all the time, and I'm very fortunate in the respect that I get along with most people. You know, I don't upset people. And so they sort of just kept in touch with me all the time. And you get the newsletters that said, you know, are you still interested, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I'd say yes, of course. And then I was offered a place, but at that time there was a couple who were both unwell that also needed a place. And me being me, which is fine, I'm not complaining about being me, I said, look, give it to them. If they were unwell, at that stage I was fine, so they needed it more than I did. So yeah, and then they just kept in touch with me. And how long ago was it? It must have been about, what year were we in, 2024? Yep. So it must have been at the start of 2021 when this building was almost finished. And Karina and Julie got in touch with everybody and said, are you still interested? We're having basically an open day. Come along and have a look. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then I ended up in this.
In terms of community building here, I can see pretty much out the window there is the local school, which is
the high school.
A high school, yeah. Right? Is this what's your observation around the social cohesion, the community connectedness, and any change you've seen over time?
That's an interesting one, because we live in such a transient population. If you're considered a local, which I am, there's definitely a connection between us all, and we all know each other and that sort of thing. But then you've sort of got the other side of that where we've got all these young people coming in from overseas, and that it's a really hard one. Yeah, we do have a community. There is a community connection here. I mean, the people, most people in Queenstown they just puddle along.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who've been here most of their lives,
Yeah.
which I envy them for to a point. But, none of us are particularly happy with what's happening here now.
Yeah. Yeah. There are, though, and you are sitting here in a home that you were supported into by the local community housing trust. There are some really good examples of things that are working well.
Oh, yeah.
That we might encourage other people to do a little bit more of more often, maybe.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the community housing group in Queenstown have allowed so many people. This is a rental. It has enabled so many people like myself to get into a comfortable place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without them, I don't know where. I mean, I think there's about, I don't know how many rental they've got in here, probably 15 or 20. Then everybody that's in one of those would have had nowhere else to live.
Yeah.
But they just can't keep up with it.
Yeah, so the demand is, I think my understanding is at the moment there's 1,200 on the waiting list.
Yeah.
And that's not people, that's households.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they just can't keep up with it.
Yeah. So if for example, I wasn't me, but I was the Minister of Housing or somebody who could make decisions that local people can't make about things that local people, even local government, don't have power or control over, what would you say to Christopher Bishop as the Minister of Housing about what you've experienced and the difference it's made for you?
I would ask if there's any way that they could get more built, and just say, we do have people living in cars in Queenstown. We do have people living in tents. And this isn't just single people, this is families as well. Please, can you help these people get into something solid? I mean, it doesn't have to be flash. It doesn't have to be state of the art. Just something that would enable them to live a comfortable existence like we all deserve. And we do deserve it.
Do you feel safe and secure here?
Yes. We're in a secure building here. Like you found out, you couldn't just walk in the door. So there's a thing up on the wall there, and I do feel safe here. I do keep my door locked all the time when I'm on my own at home, but that's just something I've done for years. Wherever I'm living, my door's locked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stories coming out now, and it's like, and especially older women on their own are targeted.
Yeah, we've seen across the country a growing number of homeless or houseless older adult women. And that is something that is really concerning, and in some ways we're trying to help middle New Zealanders to understand that this is actually happening. There's a lot of people live their lives and don't see homelessness or houselessness. They don't experience it and they don't see it, and yet in some ways people are only 1 or 2 paychecks away from that.
That's right.
If they get some bad luck.
Right. Well, when I came here 25 years ago, I doubt if there was any such thing as homeless people. You never saw them, you never heard of them. And now it's all the time. But it's very hard because a lot of, we say about Queenstown, you've got the top 5%, and it's the same in a lot of places. You own everything, and the other 95% work their backsides off to keep them in that. Right. But something that really shocked me the other day was I was going out the front of the building, and down the end over there was an older woman walking with a shopping trolley full of all her stuff. Now, I had never seen that in Queenstown before.
Yep. And when was that? Quite recently?
Oh, about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's happening all over the country for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people don't seem to think it happens in Queenstown. A lot of New Zealand believes that everybody who lives in Queenstown's wealthy. We wish. But they're not. And that's like the high school's a decile 10. It shouldn't be. Because it's there's a lot of kids going to that school whose parents can't afford things.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting because my understanding is there's very little central government involvement in addressing the persistent unmet housing need in the Queenstown Lakes area, the whole region.
We tried.
Again, I suppose a message for people in Wellington about what the true lived experience is here in Queenstown?
It's interesting you say that, because just recently we had, I don't know who it was, we had a politician down here and they walked away and said, oh, Queenstown hasn't got a housing problem. And that stuck with a lot of us. And I mean, because I've been so involved in the community and things like that, it's like, take your whatever it is, your sunglasses off and have a good look.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fortunate because I get help with my food and that. Because my only income now is my superannuation and I don't have any savings or anything. And Kiwi Harvest supply a heck of a lot of food to people in Queenstown who can't afford, and that's all affected with the housing.
So a lot of this is invisible, isn't it? Unless you really make the effort to go and look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of the people I know and what I've been doing, I know a lot about it and that. And it's like, no houses, no food.
Yep.
Power goes up. I mean, even I, and I'm quite comfortable to a point, but even I thought when we heard the power was going up, it's like, oh my God, no, that means you've got to rejig things.
Yes.
But even when you're in a comfortable place like this, you've still got your phone and your power and insurances, because I refuse not to have insurances. It's just something, there's all that. And you've got to sort of juggle things around to,
And sorry to talk about money because it's a little bit.
I'm not worried about it. Go for it.
Okay, so what is because a lot of people are now coming to retirement age, they have no assets or savings, and they're stepping into fixed low income with the pension. Can I ask, what is the pension these days? I don't know.
Well, that's a hard one. Per fortnight, I now get with the latest increase $7. This is after my rent's come out, because my rent comes out first, which is fantastic. I think I'm on $750 a fortnight.
So your rent is 25% of the market rent, is that right? And then the rest gets topped up by the government?
Yeah, so my rent is, what is it now? I don't know what it is now because it's just recently gone up.
Yep.
But it's about $150 a week or something.
Yep.
Which is fantastic.
Yep.
I'm very, very grateful.
Yep.
And
so that's
that comes out
income-related rent subsidy.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Okay, yeah, I understand.
The funny thing is the government puts your benefit up and then your rent goes up. So you just sort of don't feel, but I mean, I don't complain. I'm not one of those people who complains, but
is that sustainable for you though, the way things are? And
I make it sustainable.
Yeah. Okay.
I have to.
Yep.
I mean, what else can you do? My son-in-law keeps on saying, move away, go and live somewhere else. And I said, because I'm 74 and at my age, it's like, you've got to go away and make new friends and doctors and dentists, and there's no point. Yeah. And the way I shop for groceries, I don't spend a lot on luxuries or anything like that. I don't complain about it. It's no, at least I've got food. I've got a place that's warm. I've got a heat pump. I've got a washing machine. I've got a fridge. I've even got a dishwasher, which I must admit I use because I get a free hour of power. I've got all the necessities. So I'm not complaining. I really do wish there was more units like this.
Yep.
For people who are coming up to, not just retirees, as young families, Yeah,
we interviewed a young couple who are on the waiting list earlier today. Lovely young couple, both full-time workers. They're in a bed sit in someone's garage effectively, and I was amazed because they were so grateful. They were so thankful that they had a safe place and some family that they could rely on. But they were really thinking that if they had a child and started their family, which they would like to do sometime soon, actually, unless they can find a home, they're going to have to leave.
That's right.
And it doesn't sound like they're alone.
No, and that was like when I was living in the tent in my daughter's garage. I mean, it sounds really bizarre, but it was really cool. It was my space. It was like having a bedroom, and it meant I was away from the main house. If I hadn't had that, I don't know where I would have been. I did move into the house later, but they had children and things like that. you know, what do? You've got to move away. You've got a good job. You've got good friends. What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a theme I'm hearing from you and from others. It's really a pretty simple request for more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because down the side of this building, because you came in the front, down the side there's 2 more sections. And the guy who built this building was going to build 2 more buildings there. But then with COVID and everything else, he couldn't do it. So that land has been for sale now for about, well, since I've been in here. So we're just hoping, and they were going to build 2 more. And then there's a guy beside BP. If anybody told you about that one, there's a guy beside the BP station, and there's this weird-looking building, which is actually a car park building. Don't ask me why somebody built a car park building. We have no idea. He's applied to the council for consent to build some workers' accommodation.
Right.
I mean, he's got the road in and everything. We haven't heard yet whether he's got that consent. And if they don't give it to him, there's going to be such an uproar.
Right.
If he's got the money and he's willing to do it, let him do it.
Mm. And that's worker accommodation.
Yeah, workers' accommodation.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've been talking to international groups and local government and other places, and there are schemes in other parts of the world where large employers, are actually providing the accommodation for their workers as quite a normal way of doing business, including, you know, looking across there to the school. Where are the teachers living, and are they managing to hold on to their staff?
I don't know, but I know they struggle. But it's interesting you're saying that because NZ Ski has got the old YHA youth hostel. 2 or 3 of the other big employers here have bought buildings. They have to. They're going to have no staff.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go out and start cleaning hotels.
Fair enough.
You know, I'd rather do volunteer work. And that's not being a snob or anything, but, you know,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Can I ask you for a moment what your thoughts would be if we don't address this problem in the Queenstown context? What does that look like in terms of the future of the town, the community, the people who live here now?
The town will collapse. I mean, as I said, I've been a tour guide here for 25, I've been a tour guide for 45 years, but 25 years here. And I said probably 10 years ago, the town had lost its soul. That's what's happened. Okay. And this is all because the fact that it's just, I mean, there's a couple of people who organise meetings for people who are in this situation. And it's amazing how many people turn up to it. And it's like, if we want this town to survive, apart from infrastructure, there's got to be something done about accommodation, or it's not going to survive. You know, the town cannot survive without workers.
There's some who would argue that housing is infrastructure in the way that schools and hospitals, you know, I mean, it's semantics maybe,
Yep.
but it's critical, isn't it? Yep. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yep. We must, I mean, there's no pussyfooting around or anything now. If we want this town to carry on, and I mean, I heard something yesterday about Auckland Airport having more people coming through it now than it did before COVID. And it's like, you know, and then they wanted to build this flaming airport in Terrace, and everybody's going, oi, stop. There's nowhere for people to live. If you're going, what do you do? And I mean, they're building, 2,500 new houses out there and another couple of thousand out there. People aren't going to be able to afford them. It's the wealthy, and it's a lot of people from overseas coming in and buying the houses, which is pushing the prices up. What do you do?
What's your thought on the market will fix this problem and the market is going to provide affordable housing?
Going to happen. I mean, every time we get told in Queenstown, we're building this. I think there was a thing that came out sometime recently that for every new development that was built, they had to build so many affordable houses, right? But it doesn't happen. I mean, the ones that my daughter is in Lakeside Estate were built by the Affordable Housing Trust. Okay? And they're still building them. But these developers that are told well, I don't even know whether they're told now, you must have a certain percentage of your, and this is what everybody says. It's just not happening.
Not at the scale that it needs to,
No.
to make a difference, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody. I mean, what's the average house price in Queenstown at the moment? It's over $1 million.
1.7.
Oh, jeez. I didn't know that.
Yep. Yeah.
And the interest rates are going up. And
yeah, it's a pretty tough environment, and there needs, funnily enough, for there to be affordable housing or subsidised housing, there needs to be a subsidy. So the market's not going to do that. We have to find other ways of doing it in the way that your community housing trust is doing here so well. And you've got a very courageous local government in a way that they've been trying to get this going. They're sort of leading the way.
Oh, it's been fantastic. I mean, it's been going for 15 years now. And Julie, she's absolutely hilarious. I locked myself out of here one night, which everybody does in the building. So I rang her and she said, I'll be out of there in 5 minutes. And she turns up in the gumboots. And that is just the sort of person she is. Julie and Karina have just, they just work their butts off for it. And every obstacle they come to, they find a way around it.
Magic.
It is magic. And I mean, look at this. This is proof.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my observation is there's quite a lot of New Zealanders who are in denial about the fact that we have a housing crisis because they haven't experienced it. But more and more now, I think, with the evidence and the awareness, we need to ask ourselves as New Zealanders, what sort of a country do we want to live in? What's our vision for the country that our children and our grandchildren will live in? Have you got any thoughts on that?
That's a really hard one because I've got 3 grandchildren here and 3 in the North Island, and it's like, I don't want them to struggle to find somewhere to live like their parents did and like I did. I want a New Zealand where everybody has somewhere to live that's safe and secure. I really wonder sometimes what the kids. Well, I mean, there's a lot of children being brought up in very entitled housing, but then you've got the other side of it where there's not, and you've got 2 or 3 families living in one place, and that shouldn't happen. The families cannot. I mean, I know some cultures do it, but that's fine. There are some families who don't even really know who their family is because they're living with so many other people, and I would like to think that my youngest grandchild's 13 now, but my great-grandchildren would have a place to live that they could call home, not just a house. Yeah. It's got to be a home where they're safe, they're comfortable, they're warm. Yeah.
I just want to thank you for welcoming us into your home today. It's a real privilege to be here and really thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for coming and giving me the chance to...